Hello and welcome everyone. This is LavenderSkyPanther. Today is Friday, May 28th, 2021. And today we have a fun and wonder-filled show called Looking Up, Down Under, the Australian SkyFiles. And it's a collection of photos happening between May 6th and the 26th. Three groups of them coming in from YowieGrrrowlz, a fascinating friend of the LavenderSkyPanther channel down under in Eastern Australia, who has a brilliant, keen eye and is very in touch with the surroundings, below foot and above in the skies, as it turns out. I am very excited to present these special observations today, and especially because YowieGrrrowlz did exactly what I always wished for and what I've mentioned in my earlier shows routinely, which is for everyone to please just take 2 to 5 minutes a day, if you're not doing it already, and just look up. Take a look 360 degrees around you up in the skies, and use not only your eyes but also your otherworldly instincts, otherwise known as your sixth sense, and see if you can sense anything up in the sky that just seems off or a little odd or just uncanny. And then just take pictures of those areas, even if you just feel something up there and don't see it. Then, more often than not, you'll see a ton of stuff presenting or just showing up in your photos later when you take a look. Well, thank you so much to YowieGrrrowlz. You did that to perfection. So thank you so much for trying it out and sharing some of these remarkable photos you had. You kept me hopping for sure, looking at these photos and putting this show together. So let's get going and take a look and see what we've got. And before we do, I'd like to say welcome and warm greetings and say good day, osio, how, buongiorno, guten tag, kia ora, jambo, kedu, buenos dias, bonjour, ni hao, dzień dobry, konnichiwa, dobroho dnia, annyeonghaseyo, botarji, dobi den, aloha winala, galimera, guten dag, and today for our special theme, I gotta say good day. So here we have a scene looking at some beautiful and wild terrain in Eastern Australia, with a special beautiful grouping of eucalyptus trees, and one had fallen down in front, and YowieGrrrowlz had said that there was beautiful life springing up, as you can see, vertically out of this trunk, creating new life. So just gorgeous view. All right, so we have three groups we're going to get into. It's a slightly different format than I usually do, just to respond to slightly different circumstances here with these fascinating photos. So group one, this is, as you can see, going to be a very intriguing feature I'm going to check out. So bear with me. Now, before we get into these two, for anyone who is new, welcome if you're returning as well. If you are new, I'm going to just go over a few basics, and if you're returning, you can just skip over this part. I'm sure you've heard it before if you've seen my other shows. But what I'm going to do is go through and walk through some slides. They're going to be labeled either original or enhanced, and when I say enhanced, it simply means I've edited attributes of the photo, such as color, saturation, brightness, contrast, things of that nature, just to better highlight and draw out, special features of any given photo. I'm also going to drop in some letters, as you can see, and those are going to identify and tag areas of interest in any given photo, and it also is just a little easier to track than my cursor, and it also helps me keep me focused on different images, because sometimes there's so much going on, I can only flag just even a fraction, of some of the highlights that are to be found in any given photo. That said, most of them are just going to be entitled Strange Cloud Activity in quotes at the bottom. And what that means is I suspect there's cloak and craft going on when I just use cloud in quotes. And that means that any cloak and craft would be hiding behind cloaking material, which wouldn't just be cloud. It would be something that I like to use as my go-to reference is plasma, something a little bit heavier and denser than just water vapor that could be used as a cloaking agent. It's just what I'm going to use for now. Could it be something else? Quite possibly. Also, when I say craft, I'm referring to something that is either 3D, you could walk up and knock on it and touch it, so to speak, very tangible and tactile, or it could be something interdimensional, which is more ephemeral or ghost-like, something kind of also could be 3D craft that's like phasing in and out of state that you can't quite put your finger on what's going on. Could also be some kind of cloaking techniques that we're not quite familiar with, and it also could be even supernatural phenomenon such as air elementals and other things like air wisps, which I cover in other shows and previous shows if you want to have a look around. Also, we'll get into more things as the show progresses. I'll just move along there, but just know that's kind of the world that we're referencing. And when I say craft, I very much mean it can be, yes, human human-made, military, that vein, or it could very well be extraterrestrial craft, or it could be a collaboration of both. So our minds are kept wide open on this channel. So anyway, enough of that. Let's jump into this exciting world down under and see what we get down in Eastern Australia. So here we go. All of these photos, there's going to be 3 groups, as I mentioned. I believe I did. I hope anyway. There's groups 1, 2, and 3. They're just from different dates, and they're all looking at approximately around sunset time. So here we go. We're looking at this one view, and right away, if you've seen some of my previous shows, which just cover, the skies over Miami, Florida, for the most part, you just see a radically different sky with some very different patterning going on, but just a treasure trove and an abundance of interesting phenomenon happening up in the sky. So we're going to take a look at some of these elements. I'm not going to go through each of the letters. I'm going to leave them up to you, just to look at your own time, some of these in more detail. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights within the highlights, so to speak. So right off the bat, though, you can just see some very curious cloud activity. These really long lines, streaking out here, and yet they're parallel, and they're a little bit smokier in color, while the stuff beyond remains white. We have an interesting sky imprint back here. It has a very interesting geometrical and symmetrical shape. So that tells me there might be something of interest happening up in here. Then we look over to the left toward A, and we just see a very sharp, a very clean edge. This almost looks like a trapezoid in shape with another little object hovering above it. And then this, stretches down in a very interesting pattern. Then we have also these strange little, movements and isolated objects that we're going to look at with enhancement so you can better see what I'm seeing, hopefully. Then letter H is the highlight and the feature and the cover of the show. We have this vertical little, from a long distance, just looks like a stick. And YowieGrrrowlz had a fun name for it as a gray macaroni, like a noodle suspended there. So let's get into this and check things out a little bit better. So here's just the first layer of enhancement. I'm going to go through several generations just to see what comes out and pops out, with ease. And again, I'm going to miss stuff guaranteed because there's so much going on. So if I don't talk about something and you'd really love to hear my thoughts on it or see it with enhancement, just let me know in the comments section below, and I'll be happy to include it in a future show. So here we go, just with some very basic enhancement, we start to see that this very much so looks like an object sitting on maybe something else. This even looks interesting. This has a very, straight edges and a geometry to it. I'm just seeing that now. Then we have some things I'm not going to go too much into. There's just different structures, different patterning happening. This looks like a little standalone thing happening here, pure white, while we have gray and other colors going on. It's very curious. Then we have our little noodle here, vertical noodle. We're going to zoom in on that soon. We have very interesting, intricate, specific structure and texture happening over here. And we have these little isolated bodies happening down here. And again, where my cursor is headed. So it's a lot of chaos. So let's try to zoom in on specific items and get a clearer view of this. So we're going to go down to that area A and really zoom in. And I blew out, some of the contrast and brightness just to see. This looks very much like a triangular shape with some cloaking material wafting in front of it. That's what I see. And then a separate little body happening up here off the top of it, off the back, I'm assuming. And then we have these strange things. Look at this. These like arms, toward the front, and another little object here. Is this an object which is like trailing a weird kind of vapor, or there's several objects happening in here? I'm not sure. But this long thing looks like a cloaking object as well. You can just see different color signature on this cloaking material kind of tufting around it. That's why I say that. I don't think this is all one big craft. I think it's multiples. But see what you think. And then we're going to take a look at the same scene with just a little bit more tweaking on the contrast and things. I'm not going to spend too much time on it other on this one, just to kind of point out, this H2 is still that vertical element still holding true. And then G2, this whole thing looks like some other kind of craft. But let's move along. This is one of the ones that I'll let you have a look at. Not let you, but sorry, just I invite you to take a look at on your own time. Okay, here I blew things out a little bit more as far as the brightness and things, just to see what is going on in this kind of overall A assembly. It's just another view at it, but even though everything else seems to be kind of bleached out, this is holding dark and true. And then we start to see at J3, a triangular shape, even one next to it, which will pop up in the next slide as well. At age 3 below, we see this is still holding true. And just look at the movement of all of this. You know, we've got streaks going this way. We've got this chunk seeming to kind of head that way. We have like an explosion of activity moving that way. Then we have this big swirl around, if you follow my cursor. You know, this thing is kind of swirling around. Is that some kind of cloaking object in the back with these like two openings with kind of like a bar dividing them? Hard to say. See what you think. Then I'm going into the black and white format just to see if we can look at things in a different way. Sometimes it helps the eye, you know, to see things in a different way. If we either remove color where there was color or put color in where there wasn't, or even to flip something upside down or mirror it. So in this case, we're just looking at black and white. And look at this very interesting texture coming in at B.4, you know, down on a sharp angle. And again, this thing is like too perfect with these straight edges just to be a coincidence in the sky. That's got to be Cloak and Craft. It's very symmetrical. Looks like it has intelligent design going on in there. And then we're going to look, you know, again, this thing starts to look very craft-like. Now, I don't know, this whole thing where my cursor is could be one bigger craft with cloaking material kind of rising up in front of it. Or it could be, you know, a couple of separate things. Or it could be, you know, kind of a visual play. And these could be voids amidst like a bigger ring or something. You know, it's really, again, your guess is good as mine on some of this. And sometimes I'll present far more questions than I have explanations for, but that's kind of the whole point of this. You know, we're just looking up and trying to discover and see what we can see with a little more depth and clarity with the wonderful photo and light sensitivity range of these cameras these days, which catch far more than our, you know, human eye can. But anyway, let's start to get in on that H.4. I'm going to hop through this one more slide before we can really zoom in on that. Here we go, that A element again, you know, just we start to really see strange things emerging when we play around with some of the attributes on the photo. And then again, this is looking like a separate entity, you know, in this too, with some cloaking material wafting in front of it. See what you think is going on there. Okay, and then this is the other half zooming in on the photo, so where that little, we'll call it the gray macaroni, courtesy of YowieGrrrowlz, to the right of this, the right half of this photo, we're zoomed in. And, you know, again, we just see, look at this, starts to look like it has definite structure happening in there with more and more detail, you know, in these little parts and pieces. You know, just, again, look around on the whole, and I invite you to look not only on a handheld device, but if you have a laptop screen or something bigger, toggle back and forth or look occasionally at a laptop screen or bigger, and then look at your handheld device, because when you look on a bigger screen, you start to see a lot of detail like where my cursor is here. But it's good to look at it at a smaller format like a handheld device, because then you see like the overall picture, and then you see yet again other patterns emerging, and you'll find things that, you know, I'm not even going to pick up probably, you know, myself in the show. All right, so now we're finally zooming into that macaroni. Sorry it took a while, but here we go. On the left-hand side is the original at H.6. And look at this thing, you know, doesn't that just literally stand out? You know, everything else is moving, you know, at different angles or straight across or swirling, and this thing is just doing its own thing. And we also get a hint of something, two little parallel things, you know, coming in an angle right next to it. So we are sure as heck going to zoom in on this thing and with enhancements soon. So when we look to the right, we see the enhanced version. We see some golden color signatures down off in the horizon. We see bright whites happening just mysteriously up above that. And then we see this thing. So let's take even a closer look. And here we go. Left is the original, right's the enhanced version. And here we go, H.8. We've got that thing just sitting there. And then, you know, we get a hint of something else happening beyond. We go to the right just to see if we can see anything better, and, you know, with this enhanced version, and we start to see something like little holes popping up, and we see what looks like plasma or some cloaking material kind of wafting in front of this thing. But again, what the heck is it? And now we start to also see in the background like a truncated triangle here. There's a straight edge if you follow my cursor here. And here there's straight, it just has like some, again, like cloaking material or cloud material wafting in front of it. And then back here, we also have a triangular form. It looks truncated, but it's just it's a pure triangle being covered up by some other cloaking material. This is starting to look very interesting too, where my cursor is as well. So we're going to zoom in now. YowieGrrrowlz had a really good point. Is this pareidolia or a seahorse or something else? So pareidolia is when you start to see faces and things, like you look at a electrical outlet in the wall and you see the two holes and the other little openings and you see a face. So when we look over here at H10, you know, are we just willfully trying to see a little face in there, and I threw down here in the lower right-hand corner, to me it reminds me of a seahorse with the little, opening over here and the two eyes, and look at this, like, the head, looking at one kind of, not quite straight on, off to the side like a three-quarter turn. So, is this some type of tech? Is this an organism, like an alien organism? I'm open to that. I've seen in earlier shows, I've documented some things that really look aquatic, like squid-like and other things. If you look at the off-field sunset show toward the latter half, you'll see some really bizarre things start to appear. So I'm very open to some of this stuff floating around being very organic and very aquatic-like. If you look at up here in the upper right, that's just a zoom in on H10 a little bit better with some more contrast, and I see an opening here, an opening here, and an opening, clear opening here. So is this a bioorganism, or is this some just kind of tech blowing out cloaking material or something else entirely? But I think we can agree that this thing kind of doesn't like match with anything else happening in the sky. Again, if you have any fun and fantastical ideas of what this could be, or even some more, serious ones, however you like, just feel free to put them in the comment section below. But this one is quite an enigma. Okay, now here we go to H.11. It's a little bitmappy now because we're just trying to get whatever we can get with the enhancements on this thing. But we still have a very dark object that's undeniable that holds true in this photo. Then we start to get little bulbous things happening here with like openings at the end, like a pair of them. So I have the question marks there. We start to see that triangle, beyond. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on in here. And here's the cover slide. So here we have that what looks truncated, but actually it's a full triangle. Perfectly symmetrical. What's that? It's just perfectly symmetrical triangles don't happen in nature up in the sky, as I've covered on previous shows. And then look over here at the question marks. That starts to become a little more clear, but it's like, I don't know how even to describe this, like a vase, the bulbous part of a vase, and then like an opening at the end. And what the heck does that have to do with this thing? What's their relationship? This gets very interesting as a story. So again, if you have any fun angles on all of this, let me know. There's a lot of weird stuff happening in here too, but I'm just gonna like leave that for now for you guys to have fun with and looking at in your own time on your leisure. Okay, now here we go to group 2. Okay, this image actually was a contender for the cover, I'll tell you, because this is just truly bizarre. But let's get into it for group 2. So now YowieGrrrowlz is looking off and clearly sees, something looks like a trail and these little, grouping cluster of objects, which are totally on their own. There's nothing like it in the rest of the sky. And so we're going to take a look at A through D with some enhancement. And again, this looks like a little object with a trail behind it. This looks like something made this trail up to here maybe. And we have these other little, bits and pieces. So let's try to zoom in again, and here we go. Here's that cluster, A, B, and C. And, we have dark body. We have little things that you really can't quite explain. They're not cloud. This is pretty straight and even with a little bit out in front of it. D2 gets bitmappy. This is the one that was farther off in the distance. But let's see what else we can find. So here's a slightly different view. Here we have clearly some like vapor trail behind a clear rod or cylinder with something else curious happening at B. There's also something happening way off here. But let's take a look. A little enhancement. We're trying to get at what could that be. And then we're going to zoom in. So here at A2 and B2, look at this. This is dead level and looks like a cylinder or pipe. Okay, that's not any cloud I have ever seen in my life, or any material that could even be mistaken for a cloud. It's not a drone. It's nothing, that you would just, see somebody putting up in the sky. And here is another little, cylindrical element. So did this thing like shoot this out, or these like companion craft, or sensors or some type of advanced tech? Your guess is as good as mine, but that is not a natural feature in the sky. All right, now we're going to look at this scene and more strange cloud activity. We have elements A, B, C, and D. And at first, at A, it just looks okay. Looks like something's heading down and swirling around. Maybe, we can go out on a limb and say that's something natural. Well, with enhancement, think again. Have a look at this thing. It looks solid, and it looks like it has a tubular opening, facing down. Look how wild this thing is. And again, if we didn't have these fantastic, even just, cameras, we would miss and not be able to appreciate what actually might be happening in the skies. B1 I just flagged because it just looked like so bright white standing out on its own before it shifts into all of this kind of really strange structure. Now, I'm also seeing a lot of this, like at C.1, all of this choppiness in the sky. I refer to that as Staccato Cloud. I just call it that. It feels like the right name to me. Where things are choppy and dissonant, and like something is disturbing the atmosphere, up above, because clearly that's not like normal sky anywhere in the world, and to the naked eye, it's also fuzzy like that. So anyway, just flagging that because we've got that weird texture going on. And then here there's a big imprint at C.1, so where it's darker and it looks symmetrical, like this body comes down. So that could be also craft of some type. And then D.1 too, as well, there's like a darker body or form, or this whole thing could be part of one thing. I'm not sure. Anyway, see what you think is going on in there. We also have like weird little things happening on different angles. It just, see what you think. I just think that just stands out as just really bizarre, really cool looking. See what you think. Okay, here's another view of that element we were looking at, and let's look with enhancement. And this one I'm also pulling out because we start to see interesting color signatures. And now at the end of this tubular thing, like a sky slug, there even looks like to be like a trapezoidal form happening down here. Anyway, see what you think is going on with this scene. I'm going to move along for time's sake. All right, more odd bits, being viewed in the sky. These look more like snake-like or worm-like, and then this has some more dimension to it. And we're going to keep looking at this with some enhancements. Again, we see more solid body with these little wispy things coming off, which to me has to be like cloaking material trying to blend in like cloud. 8.1 starts to have, some deeper, dimension to it. And then when we zoom in a little bit more, we start to see that this has its own color signature, and this starts to pick up yellow in there as well. So something is happening. Again, can I tell you exactly what these are? No, but I can tell you that's not a normal attribute of the sky or normal feature in the sky. And there's, more to it than maybe we can figure out right now, but I'm just putting it there as a question. And hopefully all of you are wondering and spotting some things like this too as well, wherever you are. All right, this one gets exciting. This was my contender for the cover because it is so truly bizarre. So as you can see, YowieGrrrowlz is looking off into this direction. And I've just tagged this as A, B, and C, kind of three elements or two kind of overall things happening maybe, but I split it up into three parts. So let's have a look with enhancements. So we get some kind of dark figure under what looks like some disturbed or cloaking material. Same thing here. It's kind of fuzzy, looks like cloaking materials happening around some darker bodies. And then look at this. What the heck is this? Why is this so clear and all of these are kind of phased and fuzzy, And then it looks like something is shooting out of it. So what I'm seeing is that there's like a haze and a layer, like a veil of stuff happening in front of these things. And this one is maybe just outside of that. So to me, this looks like a head of something with antenna or ears, and then the body. And this looks like an arm reaching over and another arm to stabilize itself down. And it's like holding this like gun that's shaped like, to me, it looks like, I just forgot the name of these things. Oh my gosh, what are those things that feed off the parasites of the shark? They swim with them. It'll come to me. I'm sure you guys already know what it is. But anyway, they remind me of those things. Oh, remoras. I got it. Remoras. So this almost has like a remora shape to me. And I don't know, it just looks like we have an aquatic theme happening, that these little aquatic beings are maybe just outside in a slightly different dimension coming through, and that's some type of gun or object shooting something. That's all I've got. See what you think. We're going to zoom in, and this is why I think so. If you can see what I'm seeing, it looks like the head is looking, this would be like a elongated head looking upward with like antenna or ears flapping back, and that's like the body, and that's like an arm. I mean, to me, those look like almost fingers holding this thing. And that to me looks like the remora with the little fin, but what's going on? I don't know, but this sure is a stumper. It's fascinating and fun to look at. And then the more you look at it, especially if you pull this up on a laptop screen, you start to see little objects here too, so that almost looks like the end of a pipe or something. Anyhow, have fun looking at this. Please let me know if you have any fun angles on what's going on in this scene. And then we just put a little more enhancement on it just to see if any different color signatures pop up, and they sure do. So this is the only thing that seems to have like a golden tone, so it's got to have like a different Maybe it's like a different heat, in this thing happening. I'm not sure. But again, to me, this looks like, like the head, or maybe this is like a fish-like thing with antenna coming back, but it has arms. I mean, to me, this still looks like an arm and fingers coming down holding this thing. And this looks like two little legs, like one kicking back this way and one holding down here steady. Again, see what you think is happening. All right, let's switch focus now a little bit. Now we're looking somewhere else in the sky. And look at this. We've got clear, objects happening here with this kind of swirl around coming in here. So let's look with enhancement. Here we go. We get different color signature on here versus like little things happening all around. But we have little, dot of something happening at C.1. That might be a cloak and craft, but we'll focus on A and B for now. We have a clear little object on its own here and something emerging here. So you better believe we're going to zoom in and look at this, A.2 and B.2. And let's go right ahead to A.3 and B.3. So here this looks like a little standalone chunk, maybe has like a little vapor thing coming behind it. And this clearly looks like something like a ball-like thing, a sphere-like thing that's zooming out in this motion. So again, no matter what, these two things look independent from whatever is happening, beyond here. Very curious. Okay, we're going to look at this overall scene. We have a strange kind of muted sun with a lot of haze and other things happening in front of it. But then we're going to look at A and B because I believe here in this one we start to see, some different patterning and edges. Actually, there's a lot going on in here, but I'm probably going to just leave it for now. This even looks like a downturned triangle. And we just start to see strange things splintering off. If you look at my cursor, what is that doing? And then this is coming down, and these things are like, streaking across in weird ways. Then we are going to this scene where A is the moon kind of veiled behind this stuff. We're going to look at that with some enhancement, and look how beautiful that is at 8.1. Looks like something might be going on in here over at B. And then we're going to go to 8.2 in the upper right hand corner, and here where the question marks are, we have that moon, but then I see something like a smudge that's in a perfect triangular form. This has a right angle right above those question marks. It's a right angle. And actually, if we go back down to this enhanced version, you kind of see something sitting there. And so to me, that could be a cloak and craft just purely because of the geometry alone. That we have a very sharp line, going on a diagonal, straight edge, another straight edge coming down here. But it is a little bit mappy, but see what you think. All right, now we're just looking at a black and white view because at the B2 and the C2 is where I see some imprints. I know it's a little bit fuzzy, bear with me, but this starts to look like the shape of a triangle. So we have an angle going this way, we have an edge, here, and then down at B2, I'm trying to see it now, but I believe there's another one stacked below, or it's part of an overall bigger triangle. All right, now we're going to look at this where this looks like very smudged out and strange right here. And then B, we also have some strange activity happening in here, so we can see it better with enhancement. But first we're going to go up to 8.1 because this looks like a darker imprint, but I know this one might be harder to see. And down here as well we have some weird shape that looks like a little bit triangular with stuff coming in front of it, cloaking material. And then we have a ring-like thing, forming here that looks like a pure ring. But anyway, let's keep going. Here's that ring I was just pointing to. It still holds true. B.2, we see it better now. This looks like an imprint of a triangular shape with a point up here. 8.2 looks really deep and dark. It starts to take on a shape of some kind of imprint beyond. Again, these are sometimes easier if you just see it on a smaller screen. And we got some weird little smudge out. I tend to think there's something cloaking and suspended here amidst some other cloaking material. Now this one is really fun, okay? Look carefully at A, B, and C because when we get to the enhancement it's going to be incredible. So I already start to see this, and I imagine this is what YowieGrrrowlz saw, was that we have like an angle starting here and an angle coming down here. So you start to see the beginnings of a triangle imprint, like imprint just meaning something darker happening beyond the rest of its surroundings. And then there starts to be something weird shaped happening here at C. So, and at B we start to see a semicircular ring a little bit. Now with enhancement you can see it much better. Look at C.1, that's a hole, through this cloud or whatever is going on here. And then we see the edge of this triangle better. It even looks like there's a triangle popping out in front in the foreground. You can see the little edge of it here where my cursor is. And then, so we've got this triangle, now how far down it goes I'm not sure. But look at this, B.1, that wasn't just an accident with cloud forming a perfect semicircle. Look at this. Looks like the rim of something. So see what you think what's happening with this story. I don't know what the relationship of this triangular craft is, what I'm going to call it, because we've got standout features here with design, intelligent design to them, and geometry, symmetry. But what the heck is this? You know, this looks like it's a part of a whole of something maybe happening here beyond. Maybe another triangle is back in here. But this one is quite a stumper. See what you think is going on. We're going to zoom in one more time. You know, look at C.2 again. Looks like a dimension and then like a dark hole or something dark happening beyond here. And again, here's our line of our triangle coming down and with this semicircular feature here. All right, this is another view. We're going to look at A, B, and C. With enhancement, I start to see the shadow of a triangle back in here. Also, look at B.1. We've got this, looks like an object, you know, moving this way out of some cloaking material and some darker bodies here too, which could be objects. And then C.1, I think we're going to get to in another view. But there's something happening here, like an imprint of an elongated or just a flattened, what do you call it, a rectangle. And there's even a little body over here. There's a lot actually in this scene, so I invite you to look at this on your own time. You know, little things here too that look like objects. But we're going to zoom in a little bit and look at A2. So again, these are looking a little triangular to me. There's something strange happening here too with holes at the end. Just seems like there's some kind of design happening in this thing, this overall thing. And then C.2 looks like a triangle, you know, that's kind of, it has a little streak of this other thing coming in front of it. And then B.2, again, look at this. I mean, look how straight that edge is. And it's actually flat and then it banks up. And so to me, these have to be cloak and craft. Okay, now we're going to get to group 3. This is a little preview of what's to come. If you can name that thing, let me know. So we're going to just look at this pretty quickly. So we've got A and B. This is up here, this little green thing is a lens flare, just so you know. Now A, you know, we have a straight line here and a straight line here forming the top of a triangle. And then B, I also see one happening here. So let's look at with enhancement. Maybe you can see it a little better what I'm seeing. You know, I'm seeing a triangle there. There's also something weird happening right here where my cursor is. It's a little bit whiter than the rest of the things. It has a little bit of structure to it. That could also be a triangle. This looks like a point here, a straight edge here, and a straight edge there. So that's something I didn't even see before. Every time you open up and look at these photos, you find something new, it seems. But anyway, so we've got triangle at A.1, something happening over here. Another triangle here at B.1, and I'm sure there's a load of other stuff happening in here, but we are going to move on for time's sake. And here's just a black and white format, grayscale, so you can better see maybe some of these things. Then we're going to look at AA and BB. So we're looking at a sun at sunset, and what caught my attention right away is, okay, if you could draw a circle, and I often do this sometimes in other shows, I should have done it here, but whatever. If we put a circle around here, you know, true circle, okay, why do I have this brighter object left over? You know, I shouldn't have another bright object over here. So let's look at that with some, you know, incredible enhancement here. And I see, like, you know, what should be the quote-unquote sun, but there's clearly an object here too. And it's not just the cloud material or whatever, cloaking material, because that would be, you know, this darker color. So this is either a self-illuminating body, oops, sorry about that, or it's an, you know, reflecting off of something. But whatever the case, you know, I'm going to say that's a spherical element, as is this. And so this supports the idea of a second sun, and which that very well could be. And look at other shows that I have to see what that's all about. Or look at other Earth and Sky watching channels on YouTube also to find out about that. It's either second sun, you can also look up at the artificial sun or solar simulator things too on YouTube. Okay, now we're going to look at another scene, and what's weird about this one is we've got these darker smoky elements that just seem kind of haphazard and loosely put together, if you could even call it that. You know, look at these are even coming down on a weird angle, and then this is crisscrossing down at yet a different angle. So what's going on with this sky? You know, that doesn't seem to make sense. And here, you know, I start to see a triangle once again at C. So let's just look at it with some enhancement. We can get at it a little bit better maybe. You know, why again are these diving down on this angle? Well, this is going almost perpendicular, you know, the other way. Now at 8.1 I start to see a hole, maybe two holes, so something with intelligent design may be hanging out here in cloak. I also see like the outline of something very clear here, Looks like a square rectangular form on dark imprint. May have a tail like leading up from, up from this point as well, an imprint. And then, once again, we just see what's going on here. To me, these are interdimensional craft where they cloak with, chunks kind of missing, but you still kind of see something is there. That's what these remind me of. Now we're going to zoom in on just those little chunks that I was just talking about. Because look at, this has a straight edge. This has a straight edge, like the top of a triangle once again. This has more or less a straight edge toward the bottom with an angle, on the side. So again, to me, something's cloaking in here. That's all I'm going to say about it. In here too, just see what you think with a little more study. All right, this opens us up to another nice view. We're going to look at A, B, and C. We've got like this storm cloud activity, but I see right off the bat different color signatures happening, different things kind of illuminating in the back in weird ways, and we got these weird, what do I want to say with this? We have weird, like stick-like things, things heading off in a forked direction, and yet this is all supposed to be maybe moving at the same, across the sky in the same way, while these things start to like puff out a bit, and this is like straight, what's going on? Let's look with some enhancement. Here we go. That just looks strange to me. And then we've got, a much whiter element happening amidst this darkness. So what's that about? And then we have some like more golden activity. I kind of see the top of a triangle, happening here. And actually, if you squint and like zoom out and look at the bigger picture, it looks like something even is happening here, maybe an overall darker, imprint of a craft cloaking beyond. But anyway, the whole scene just looks weird. B.1 to me looks like a breakaway element cloaking in here, if you follow my cursor. Just a lot of strangeness going on here. A.1 to me looks also like a rectangular element, an elongated rectangle happening right there. And then we're going to look at a slightly different view. Actually, right away, I see a triangle form here as well. But let's look with, this is looking toward the left of that assembly, so here's that little forked element. Just looks really strange. Here's that A.1, that little triangle on an angle. And B.1, we just get not only some weird otherworldly color backlighting all of this, it kind of looks like some kind of weird LED light, different than from what the natural light is. But also look at this. Look at my cursor. Here we go along. This is a very straight edge. And this comes to a point. I don't know where the point dies over here. But this has got to be either a smaller triangle like this, or, it could be a bigger one. See what you think. But no cloud has a perfectly clear edge like that if it's natural. And something else looks like it's hiding and going on in here as well. But see what you can see. Lots of interesting stuff. It looks like also like two holes that are, symmetrical in this overall thing are forming. Or that could just be like a trick of the eye. Trick of the overall view. But whatever the case, this is undeniably a straight edge. So I'm calling that cloaking craft. And we're zooming in a little bit more on that edge just to make my point even more obvious. And we have tufted cloaking material happening at the corners. So very interesting and intriguing view here. Now, speaking of interesting and intriguing, what the heck is this? Can anybody tell me what's going on with A? Look at this. We have kind of like a little bulbous thing happening down here. And then this stretching out here. Well, this is the character of everything else around it. I don't know what to say about that. And so we're going to look at it with some enhancement. And we just see the overall character. It's keeping the same color signature of whatever this is that it's coming out of. But I just find that highly strange. Then we've got a nice view here with a beautiful rainbow coming down or up, however you want to look at it. And, just something worth kind of taking a look at because we have some bright, warm, light signature popping up out of here where nothing else seems to kind of have that hue. And we have like a ring shape here, or it might be a little optical trick. If it's not a ring, it's then just a solid sphere imprint. So let's just have a look here. And you can see a little bit better what I'm talking about. So here, when we put some enhancement on it, man, we get this black, mass, like that's saying that's solid in there. Something solid happening in here too. Looks a little like reverse Pac-Man-like with an open mouth to me. And then we have this thing. So no matter what, why is this going straight up and then becomes a sphere? Or maybe it's a triangle, like a truncated, rounded edge triangle happening behind there. I don't know. Either way, if you have a natural cloud system moving along, you're not going to have something going more horizontal, and then boom, all of a sudden something on its own decides to jet up, vertical like that. Anyway, also we get a weird burst of different warm color signatures, light signatures happening in here, while everything else around it is cool, you know, in blue, and then something cool in blue down here too. So I gotta say, there is craft cloaking, you know, in and around here. So that's what I'm gonna say. Now, I don't know if it's one huge thing or multiple pieces and parts. You be the judge on that one. All right, here's another view. Now this one gets very interesting too, because different things start to happen up in here. And so look how beautiful this turns out anyway. I love the way this turns very Mars-like. Anyway, look at this. So 8.1, we have symmetry, okay, these lines, and it looks almost like a crystal, you know, rising up out of here. Again, we've got beautiful color signatures happening all over the place. So golden, and then darker, you know, and then we have weird things just like exploding off of this thing in a radial pattern. So I gotta say, these look like, you know, these have to be some little crafting bodies happening all over the place. But see what you think. We have weird things too happening in here if you really will look. Even looks like something looks a little cylindrical like here at C.1. We're going to zoom in there. That's my little, what I'm going to call crystal. You know, it just has that type of shape. But very curious things starting to pop up too when we look at this view, especially at C.2. Actually B.2 as well. We start to get like an elliptical thing here. We get something, you know, just can't quite put your finger on it, but it looks like it has intelligent design. Like, look at this thing coming down. It looks like the end of a tube, you know, right here. That looks like the tube part, and that we're looking at the end of it. Then we're going to zoom in one more time. C.3, that was that tube, if you follow my cursor, where we were just looking. It looks like another curved element. All of this looks intelligent. I know it looks a little chaotic, but it looks like there's a little something more to it than just cloud activity. See what you think. And we're going to look at again, you know, we got our nice little rainbow, just to see if we can see anything else before we leave this scene. And we get some wild color signatures. So many sky colored signatures. We got this really intense gold. And then we go into these dark grays. We get pops of white. You know, what's going on in here? I'm sure you can find a lot of things. This looks like a downward diving arrowhead or dart shape. Just some weird stuff. Another triangular form. Something here looks very symmetrical. Look at this. Like the edges, like a triangle going up, a triangle going down. Wow, we could spend a lot of time on here, but we're not. So have at it and have fun looking to see what you can find. All right, now we're going to shift gears a little. Now this is, I just put down in the lower corner, solitary clouds in quotes over the sun in quotes. Okay, how do we have a scene like this? It looks very chaotic. And then we have this thing on angle. And then look at where the sun should be. There's just like the cloud just happens to be going right over it. And that doesn't even look like a real cloud. So let's zoom in. These are not natural clouds masking the sun. I'm just going to say it. Look at this. Look at this thing. It's like, if we're going to stay with the aquatic theme, it's like an enraged pufferfish with a really wide open mouth. And why is this like echoing it? You know, this pattern of light. Then we have a little light chunk off on its own, and we're going to see in another view all these little fragments look like, you know, little craft or sensors or something. It's just really bizarre. And then look at all this little chaotic activity, and then you go over here to the right, and it's a long straight edge. You know, what the heck is this? And then we have this darker beam split and coming, so something's going on behind this mess. So it's no coincidence something just shows up right in front of the quote-unquote sun to mask it out. So here we go with some more enhancement, a little more extreme enhancement, just to see if anything else pops out that we can identify. And again, you know, there's that dark band rising up, so that means something is creating that to create that darker shadow. And then, again, we have an isolated chunk here. We got these weird bits coming off. That's not cloud material. And how does a cloud even, like, shred off and do this, you know, a natural one? The answer is it doesn't. So what do you think is happening? And then 8.2, this looks like a gentle arc of something with symmetrical design of these little arms coming down. So this could be a cloak and craft beyond. Anyway, have fun looking at that one and figuring it out. All right, well, this is the photo of the week and the close of the show. So we're just taking a nicer look on that that rainbow beam. So thank you for showing up here a while and spending time here. And again, heartfelt thanks to all of you for being here, and a huge thanks to YowieGrrrowlz for sharing this world with us. It was really fun to take a little trip down under. If I can't go there in person, I love to in photos. I will take it. So anyway, Best wishes, love, and peace to all of you. It is the weekend, probably for most of you are starting kicking it off anyway, if you count Friday. So have a gorgeous weekend ahead, and even more importantly, a beautiful now. Take care, everybody. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.